before the shutdown of COVID,
Yeah.
and that was definitely a suit tie.
Oh, yeah.
Huge funeral in Christchurch.
You say you'll be down at 5. The smell of the perfume is floating down the stairs. You're fixing up your hair like you do.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand.
The second that I see you, you won't be surprised. It happens every time. It's nothing new. It's always on a night like tonight. I think that you can read my mind. Just when you look at me with those eyes, I'm speechless, staring at you, staring at you. What it's doing to me in a secret. Cause watching you is all that I can do. And I'm speechless. You already know that you're my weakness. After all this time, I'm just as nervous. Every time you walk into the room, I'm speechless. Started when you said it.
I want to welcome all of you here today, those who are joining us by live stream, and those of you that have the privilege of being present for this very special and important moment as Philip and Megan begin really a new chapter in their lives. Now, I want to mention your family that I know would love to be here today, and under circumstances they would be, and your dad who, I know his blessing would be upon you guys. And but we've got some family here today. And so Colin and Leslie, on behalf of your family, give your blessing to this marriage.
Me too.
Now you can go, Phil. Now I'm just going to get you guys to trade places. So Philip, so that's happening, but that's okay. And then just turn back toward me a bit. Yeah, Philip, just turn this way and then get a little bit closer. You're going to be married. It's okay.
Safe.
Folks, you may be seated. Okay, now just take a deep breath, you two, because it's not that the big moment is over with. It's just about to begin, but all the planning is done. So I want you to close that file. In fact, Megan, close a few files right now. And that's seriously, because it's easy to have a lot of files open in the brain. And I don't mean just kind of minimize them and be peeking at them in the middle of the ceremony. I don't want you missing anything that happens in the next few minutes. And so close the planning file. It's done. Hair and makeup turned out beautifully. The photography, videography, we got that covered. I only want one file open in the next few minutes, and it's our wedding ceremony, because that's what this is all about. And it's a privilege for me to get to be part of it. And I want to begin with a prayer that really for the two of you this day is one that you're always going to look back on with an incredible memory. And, no matter what different faith perspectives we got represented and people that are joining us today, I think that my prayer really expresses the sentiment of all of us, is that we really want this day to be over the top for the two of you. Let's pray. God, we thank you for the incredible privilege that it is for us to gather today to be part of such a special moment as Philip and Megan begin a new chapter in their lives, as they walk out the doors of this chapel today different than the way they walked in. Walking out as husband and wife, entering into a covenant relationship, and the rest of their lives are going to be changed as a result of the next 15 or 20 minutes. We ask your blessing, and our prayer is that for the two of them, this is the beginning of an amazing chapter together. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, Philip and Meg, before I let you say your vows to each other, I just want to share a couple of things with you. I tried finding something in the Bible, Philip, about life coaches and that type of thing. And there's some good stuff there. There's a lot of wisdom, that Solomon wrote. But I found something that I just to share with you guys, and I won't take too many minutes to do this, but I just want to share a couple of thoughts with you. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that describes God as a builder, and what it is, he really loves building his families. And it kind of describes him like an architect almost. It says, unless God's blessing is on the household that's being established here today, those who build it labor in vain. So here's the thing that I want to say to you. We're standing inside a chapel that from your country of origin, Philip, this would be a baby. You know, here in Canada, especially on the west coast of Canada, this is archaic. You know, and for those of you that are joining from the UK, it's 130 years old. I know that would just be nicely broken in the UK, but here on the west coast of Canada, we think that if something is 20 or 25 years old, it's time to tear it down. But this was built here when there were 17 pioneer families in this entire area. There was nothing around here except these farm families. And you know, this building is standing here 130 years later in incredible condition. It's kind of got some special significance for your family because your mom and dad got married here 45-ish years ago. They're still here, happily married, sitting in the front row. So that's got some good legacy for you. But one thing that I want to say, and I'll guarantee you, it's not something you would think about when you stood and looked at this chapel. Pioneers that built it had to have put a proper foundation in place. If they hadn't, it would not still be here today. Now, it's not something that many people appreciate, but you know what? I love it here in Vancouver when I'm watching in downtown Vancouver when they're building a new skyscraper. Hole, and it seems like it takes forever before you ever see them coming out of that hole, you know. And there have been many times, because I'm just kind of obsessed with building, and I feel like, my gosh, did they abandon it? But no, it's because they're taking so much time and effort on the foundation part. Because if they don't, the rest of it's not going to stand. Now, you're probably wondering, Alan, what are you talking about? Here's the point. Philip, Megan, you are at a foundation place in your relationship. You're just about to begin married life together. You're just about to move into a new home together. And that marks the beginning. This here, standing at the marriage altar, marks the beginning of a very important foundation period. And I want to tell you, and I'd love to get your mom and dad's opinion on this right now. We won't stop and ask them to comment because that wasn't part of the script, but I'd love to ask their opinion. I really believe that the next 2 years are probably two of the most important years in your lives. Definitely, I believe, two of the most important years in married life. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to begin to develop some habits and patterns in this relationship. And you might think, no, we've been there, we've done that. No. I'll tell you what, today marks the day of that foundation period. And you're going to begin to develop, and you guys know this without me telling you, and I'm not, you know, doing one of these, but good habits are easy to maintain. Those bad ones, man, they're hard to correct. They're hard to stop. And so I want to challenge you a couple of things. Number one, in this next couple of years, work really hard at building some healthy patterns in your relationship. Now, this is going to sound like a really bizarre thing for me to bring up on your wedding day. But in a couple of moments, I'm going to have you say some vows to each other. And one of the vows that you are going to promise, one of the very first things I'm going to have you promise, and you're going to go first, Philip, you're going to say, Megan, I promise to honor you from this day on. And what that really means is like you're saying, Megan, you're number one in my life from this time on. So here's the weird thing I wanted to tell you. Do you know what the number one most requested funeral song is in the world? It's I Did It My Way. Now, I got to tell you, it's the most pathetic life statement I think I've ever heard in my life. Because you know what it is? It's a very selfish statement. It's saying, I just did everything for me and I did it my way. I didn't care what anybody else thought. If that's your favorite song, Philip, you need to go home and destroy every copy of it. Because that's not a good theme song for a healthy and happy marriage. I got to tell you. In fact, there's a verse in the Bible, and it's actually talking about marriage, and it says something that is extremely popular in our culture. It says, be quick to take second place. In other words, there are times that, Philip, you know, you two grew up in different countries, different families, you got different habits and patterns, and you've already figured that out. But there are going to be times that you think, this is the way we always did it. But rather than saying, this is the way it's going to be, you got to be willing to say, you know what? I'm willing to change that. I'm willing to change my habits and patterns to make this work for us. And there's got to be a lot of that on both sides. You know, I'm sort of assuming, although nowadays wedding rings are not always made of gold, sometimes they're platinum, but most commonly wedding rings have been made of gold. And there's some really good symbolism in that. And the number one reason is that it's the most malleable metal there is. You can hammer it into any shape at all. And that's what I'm saying. You've got to be willing to take second place, like it says in Colossians. You know, willing to say, you know what, I've always done it this way, but hey, I want this to be a healthy relationship. And so you got to say, this relationship is number one. Now, I want to warn you, there are going to be some things that are going to try and challenge that. Your careers, dreams that you might want to go after at certain points. I don't know if you guys are planning on having children or not, you know, but many families make the mistake of letting those children become number one. Don't do that. Keep this relationship the number one position. Because you know what? The best gift that you will ever give your children is growing up knowing they've got a mom and dad that are madly in love with each other and they honor this relationship. They'll be the most secure kids that will ever pass through your classroom, Megan. That's the kind of thing you need to be promising each other here today. Another thing that you're going to say to each other is, I promise to love you. And you know, really what that means is you're just saying, hey, I promise to treat you a certain way from this day on. You know, those words in the Bible, again, I think give me the best description of what you should be promising each other here today. If we did a little word association up here and I said, okay, you guys describe your love for each other, you'd give some good answers. It'd be really actually cool to do. We're not going to, but if we did, it'd be interesting to hear what you would have to say. But I think 1 Corinthians 13 really tells us what you should be promising each other here today. Because, you know, if I were to ask you, and I'll guarantee you, if I asked any person from any country in the world to describe their love for their soulmate, one of the first things would be, oh, I've got some strong feelings, or we've got strong feelings for each other. And we wouldn't be here today if that wasn't the case. But I'll tell you what, you better have a lot more than just feelings. Because feelings are up and down, and don't worry about it. That is absolutely 100% normal. Feelings can change, just wondering what the weather's going to be like on your wedding day, you know, or making sure everything is just perfect. So I don't even think it's possible for you to stand here and say we're always going to feel a certain way. But what I think you can say is, I promise you, Philip, no matter how I'm feeling, I'll treat you this way. And it says this, it says love is patient. Now, before I go any further, I want to warn you. Some of these you might kind of wince and go up on your toes and think, oh, I need to work on that one a bit. And you know what? That's actually not a bad thing if that happens. Now, don't wince, because this is all being videotaped and photographed, and you will be busted if you do that. So try not to wince, but you know what? You might feel that way, because these are just really down-to-earth, practical things. Love is patient. Love is kind. It's not selfish. Love is not easily provoked to anger. Love does not keep an account of wrongs and hurt suffered. I want to stop on that one for just a second. Another translation that I really like says, love does not keep score of each other's mistakes. You know what? There are going to be times you're going to feel like, I'm going to remember that. One of these days, I'm going to remind you. Don't do that. Promise me you're going to, you know, on those days, instead of saying, I'm going to remember that, don't grab each other by the hand and say, we need to go for a walk. We got to talk. We got to let this go, because I don't want to drag baggage along in our marriage. So love doesn't keep an account or keep records of the mistakes that are made. It goes on and says, love does not celebrate each other's weaknesses, but celebrates the truth that it knows. Love always trusts each other. It always protects each other, always hopes and dreams for the very, very best. Love always perseveres. And as in this translation that I'm quoting, with these 6 words, this kind of love never fails. I think you guys need to grab hold of that, because, you know, I think what that's saying, I think God is saying, you guys, if that's how you love each other, if that's what you're promising here today, but more importantly, if you live that out, it's going to keep getting better and better as the years go by. And that's my prayer for you, is that that is exactly what happens. Now, I want to ask you a question. If we're doing this ceremony in the UK today, here in Canada, actually any country in the world, it's every culture, it's just assumed when you stand at the marriage altar that you're making a lifelong commitment to each other. But I need to hear you say that today. So, Philip, I want to ask you first of all, do you take Megan to be your lawfully wedded wife, to live together with her in lifelong companionship and commitment?
I do.
Megan, do you take Philip to be your lawfully wedded husband, to live together with him in lifelong companionship and commitment?
I do.
I'm going to take your flowers. I want you guys to face each other. Philip, I'd like you to repeat after me, please. Megan?
Megan,
All that I am,
all that I am,
all that I have,
all that I have,
I promise to you.
I promise to you.
I promise to love you,
I promise to love you,
honor you,
honor you,
care for you and keep you
care for you, and keep you
through all of the trials
through all of the trials
and circumstances of life.
and circumstances of life.
I promise to be faithful
I promise to be faithful
to you alone
to you alone
for as long as we both shall live.
for as long as we both shall live.
Megan, I'd like you to repeat after me, please. Philip,
Philip,
all that I am,
all that I am,
all that I have,
all that I have,
I promise to you.
I promise to you.
I promise to love you,
I promise to love you,
honor you,
honor you,
care for you and keep you
care for you, and keep you
through all of the trials
through all of the trials
and circumstances of life.
and circumstances of life.
I promise to be faithful
I promise to be faithful
to you alone
to you alone
for as long as we both shall live.
for as long as we both shall live.
Now, before I let you place these rings on each other's fingers, let me explain just a couple of points about them. Number one, I told you that it's made of a very malleable, very soft metal that will take on any shape or form. Good symbol. The thing about it, one of the reasons I think that gold has always been so popular is it's very costly, as you know. Right, Philip? Yes. And there's a reason for that. You know, like here in Canada, engineers are given a little pinky ring that's made of a much less costly material. Good symbolism in it, but they make wedding rings of very costly material because it's to be a symbol of something very precious, very rare. And actually, your relationship's one of a kind. And then the third thing is they're made into a band that's got incredible strength. You know what? I'm not going to try, but I probably couldn't hurt that, Andy. I could put a lot of pressure on that. And you know, when you listen to what I just said, it's a very soft metal, and yet it's got incredible strength. Your love for each other has got incredible strength, you know. And you just promised through all the trials and circumstances. You know what that really means is you're saying we don't know what the future holds. It's going to have some challenges. We could have health issues that, God forbid, but you know, there's just stuff that happens in life that you didn't plan, but you're saying our love is going to see us through. We're together. All the trials and circumstances of life. And then finally, when you place this on each other's fingers, they're going to make a statement. And the statement they really make is, there's no one I'd rather spend the rest of my life with than you. Philip, stay on your left hand. Yeah. Just kind of tip your hands this way for it. Yeah, perfect. Philip, I'd like you to repeat after me, please. Megan?
Megan,
I give you this ring
I give you this ring
as a symbol of our love
as a symbol of our love
and the vows
and the vows
we have made this day.
we have made this day.
Megan, I'd like you to place that on partway and repeat after me. I give you this ring
I give you this ring
as a symbol of our love
as a symbol of our love
and of the vows
and of the vows
we have made this day.
we have made this day.
I promise to love you today,
I promise to love you today,
tomorrow,
tomorrow,
and for all the years to
and
come.
for all the years to come.
Just join hands one more time, please. Philip and Megan, it's a privilege for me to have the opportunity to be part of this very special moment, sacred moment, most pivotal moment in your lives, as we stand here today. But I just pray that you are blessed with long life and good health and a love for each other that grows in strength and in depth and in beauty all the days of your lives. It's a privilege now to be able to pronounce you husband and wife. Philip, you kiss your beautiful bride. It is an incredible privilege to get to introduce Philip and Megan, whom you all know, obviously, but I get to do this for the very first time in their brand new relationship as husband and wife. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs.
Talk first and then I'll
Okay.
say something.
Okay, thank you ever so much to everybody who's joined. We've got a record of 9 countries who've joined us to celebrate this magical day, and we couldn't be happier. Obviously, we'd love it if you were all here with us in person, but as a way of being able to involve more people, we've been able to hire a fantastic videographer and to be able to stream it to you all. So wherever you are, thank you so much for joining us. I present to you my wife, Megan.
Thank you to all of our friends and family who have joined in our special day online today. We wish you could have been with us in person, but we're so grateful for the gift of technology, and we dream of the day that we can gather in person to celebrate with all of you. We love you, and we'll see you all soon.